This is
Well,
David.
everybody's kind of between things. Hey, Brian, you're from Florida, aren't you, over Miami way?
That's correct. Yep.
And we've got two more members in Florida. We have one, what, close to Bradenton?
Yeah, I'm
And
trying to
North-
remember who that is.
I may have to look. Do you think there's a chance you and I and the other two Florida members would look to put together a ride in Florida, say in second or third week of February?
Oh, I think that's a
Yeah, for that,
terrific
because
idea.
I'm a Florida winter resident.
Yeah, I am too. So if you're going to do it in February, I would very much be interested.
Yeah,
Well,
I'd be interested. Yeah.
let's get the 4 or 5 of us together. And I was kind of thinking starting out in like St. Augustine, coming down the East Coast to NASA, the Kennedy Space Center. That's what I'm familiar with it as. And then maybe going out on the Keys a little way, perhaps all the way to Key West, and then back and across the old Alligator Alley to Everglades City and do some airboat rides, and back up to Marco Island where I am, and I'll make sure everybody gets a good meal, and then we can all kind of go our own directions from wherever we come from.
That sounds like a wonderful ride. Sure.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Well, think about the areas you're in, and what 1 or 2 highlights might be within that area, and we'll try to put together a 4-day, 4-night ride, something like that.
Well, you stop and I'll help you.
Sounds
Doesn't
good.
Chris Jones
Yeah, Chris
be in
is
Florida in the
another
winter?
person. Yeah, I believe
Yeah,
so.
Chris is in Florida. He's got a place in the Keys.
Yeah, well, that's another good reason to go to the Keys. Then we can go bug Chris.
Who's got noise in their background? Is that you, Keith? Is there noise in your background? There's somebody that has a lot of noise in their background.
I'm all by myself out in the camper, so I don't think it's me.
Okay.
I'm muted, so and I'm putting myself back on mute, but I don't think it's me.
Yeah, I don't think it is. I don't know who it is. It's odd. I don't know. Oh, well. Well, yeah, it's funny. There's only one place that I would really like to visit, and I haven't been there in many, many years, and that's Tarpon Springs. But, gee, it's just it's so out of the way that I'm good with anywhere, because I just haven't been around a lot in Florida. So I know Marco Island.
There's a lot to see and do here, and I've got a boat, and provided we got 4, 5, 6, maybe even 7 or 8 riders, I can put them on my new boat. I've got a 600 horsepower twin engine jet boat, and we can kind of buzz around the 10,000 islands or go up the inland waterway to Naples and have a great seafood meal at the dock restaurant, and back down to Marco. And there are all kinds of great things to do. I'm not worried about lack of things.
Yeah.
Can you line up some twisty mountain roads?
Well,
that's the one thing we can't do.
That might be a little limited.
We can probably find some inland roads. When everybody leaves Marco Island, there, a lot of different routes to get back up to northern Florida, and they don't necessarily have to be on I-75.
Yeah. But we do
try to put on
some challenging riding through southern Florida because of the traffic.
Well, if we take some of these back roads and we hit the old Alligator Alley, you don't get the traffic on it you get at I-75. Southern Florida got ruined when they connected I-75 from Fort Myers down to Naples and then across the peninsula to Fort Lauderdale, Miami. That just opened it up to all kinds of traffic and stuff. But we take the old 2-lane Alligator Alley, and there's some interesting things along there. there's a fellow who's very famous for doing black and white Everglades photography. And we would be going right by his studio. And if you want to see super quality photographs, he uses an 18-inch by 18-inch black and white negative for supreme resolution. And then he goes out and wades in the Everglades, you know, eyeball to eyeball with alligators and snakes, and takes pictures of ghost flowers and still waters and storms and beaches and all kinds of, he's just a famous photographer for that. And his studio is worth easily a half hour to an hour of just eyeballing his stuff on the walls.
Wow.
That'd be good.
And he has a developing room where he can do wall-size prints on, you know, one sheet of development paper. And he runs it from the ceiling down to the floor through a bath about 12 to 14 feet wide. And he sold one for over $25,000 to a hotel.
Whoa.
Wow.
Anyway, interesting.
Does he have a website?
It's Clyde Bucher, Bucher. And just Google Clyde Bucher, and I'm sure you'll come up with him. He's getting pretty old now, and he's got, a gray beard to prove it. He'd make a great Santa Claus. But awfully nice, and he sponsors walks in the Everglades. Now, they put on chest waders, you know, up above, just below their armpits, and he charges $250 per person, and they go walk through the Everglades swamp for about 3 to 4 hours, you know, and people, he's sold out every time he does this. He does it about once every 3 months. I cannot imagine anything I really care to do less than walk eyeball to eyeball, you know, in 4 or 5 feet of water in the Everglades. But it would be an experience.
So I tell you guys a funny story about the Everglades. Oh, sorry, Tom.
If anybody wants to do that, let me know and I'll try to arrange it. Anyway, go ahead.
It's funny that this is the second time this has come up today. When I was living down in Fort Lauderdale, I was living in Coral Springs and working in Doral. I got about halfway to work and realized I forgot my badge and turned around to head back up. And Brian, I'm sure you know where this area is, where the Sawgrass Expressway crosses I-75. Sawgrass is headed north-south and 75 is headed east-west right there. I watched a woman drive her car across she was headed westbound. She drove across the westbound lanes, across the median, across the eastbound lanes and into a lake. And I thank God that I didn't think, and I just did, because I would have talked myself out of it. But I parked my car on the side and ran down the embankment, and I stepped in the water because she was obviously, something was wrong, and I wanted to go help her. And then I went into the water, and we realized that her car was floating. And so myself and a truck driver who had also pulled over got her out of the car and got her up on the shore. And by the time we got her up on the shore, the car had flipped like this and was gone. And it was probably, in retrospect, one of the scariest things I've ever been through. But I was so fortunate that at the time I wasn't thinking, I was just doing. Because like I said, I probably would have talked myself out of it. I got home and I was thinking so bad.
It's amazing how a spontaneous reaction can occur under those circumstances.
Well, I tell you, like, I fully dressed, right, and I had khaki pants on with a thick cuff at the bottom. And as I was treading water on the shore, waiting for somebody to help me up because I couldn't get up, I was like, and this is where I get eaten by the alligators, because I was literally like right there in Alligator Alley swimming. So, moral of the story is don't forget your badge.
Well, I have good friends who live in Florida. They were born in Florida and they're natives. And one of their favorite activities is to go on all these backwater rivers and canals and go kayaking and or canoeing. And they got back on a desolate area with no guide, and only about 3 or 4 other people had gone on this route. And they hit a low-hanging limb, which caused them to capsize the canoe. By the time they got to the canoe, they could see an alligator across the waterway, and they ended up laying across the bottom of the canoe while it was still floating. And it took them 5 very sincere efforts to get the thing uprighted. And by the time they got to where the guide was going to pick them up, they had everything loaded and they were pulling out of a parking lot and almost left them behind. They're not going to repeat that experience.
No, thank you very much. I almost hit an alligator on Sawgrass Expressway, actually with my car. It was, it probably would have done me in. I was in a tiny 3-door Saturn coupe. I think I probably would have launched off of the stupid thing. It was huge. I asked somebody when we lived down there, how do you know if there's an alligator in the water? And they said, if you can't see the bottom, there's an alligator in it. It's like, I don't need to.
Where's the Sawgrass Expressway?
Sawgrass runs between Fort Lauderdale, basically just north of Fort Lauderdale and Miami. It runs perpendicular or parallel to 95.
Ah, other side. Okay.
Yeah, the East Coast side of the New York
Yeah.
side of the state, not the Michigan side of the state.
Right.
Very close to the Sawgrass Expressway is a place called Kelly's Fish House. And if you like whole-bodied clams, they have the best whole-bodied, whole-bellied fried clams, I think, in the state of Florida. They are really good.
I was just down. Blair, where are you?
Well, I'm in Sarasota half the year, Florida, and then I'm up in Thornbury, Ontario for half the year.
Yeah, my son is looking at both South Florida and Florida Gulf Coast. We actually just toured both of them. And
Yeah.
I don't think he wouldn't end up at the Sarasota Manatee campus of, that's South Florida, I think.
That's South Florida,
Yeah,
yeah.
he
That's
in
great.
Tampa downtown, but he fell in love with it. My Michigan kid he's done with the snow. he's
Oh, yeah.
He's in New Zealand right now, and he's excited because he went spring, summer. So he's completely missed everything.
Yeah, once you're there, it's very easy to get hooked.
Yeah, I find myself moving souther and souther every time I move.
Yeah. We love it here, but for the weather, but we'd love to get out of Miami and this population center, someplace where it's not quite as, full of just vapid, insane people driving on the highway all the time.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Florida, the drivers in Florida, and it doesn't matter which side of the state you're on, to be honest.
That's why I love
Come on up
Marco
to-
Island. You can only fit so many people on Marco Island, and it's pretty darn nice.
Come on up to Asheville. It's all the Floriders are coming up in the winter or in the summertime to Asheville.
I was just looking at North Carolina. I've got a friend that bought a place in Highland, North Carolina. And I've done a lot of motorcycling, as I'm sure all of you have, on the tail of the Dragon and the Blue Ridge Parkway and the Rattler and all those roads.
By the way, Uta and her husband Chris stopped over here this week. We had dinner together. They came up through Asheville, stayed overnight. And we went out for a beer, and I don't know if they did Tail of the Dragon. That was what they wanted to do the next morning.
Yeah, I think it was on Facebook, wasn't it, Paul?
Yeah.
Huh. No, I've never rode anything exploratory. I mean, I've ridden across the states, but just exploring through the mountains. Pretty much from Colorado west is my stomping ground. I've never ridden any fun roads in Texas, just the freeway, and all the way out here to Jacksonville. But I have a lot to explore on the East Coast and in the middle of the country as well.
Brian, you gave me an idea. The guy who works on my bike promised to ship it down here for me, and he didn't do it. I'm going to talk to him when I get back up in Buffalo in December. But you're mentioning your 125cc. I may go see if I can just buy a 250 or, a small bike. I can rent a bike, but I might just buy a bike so I have one handy all the time so that I can at least get out in the Blue Ridge Parkway and some of the roads around here before it gets really icy. Buy it, and then sell it when I leave.
There's a lot of really great bikes that are, you know, smaller bikes, like the DRZ, the 400. What a great little bike, you know. I mean, it's an enduro, so it's probably not the most comfortable thing, but it's nimble and it's a lot of fun to ride and get around. You can get on the freeway. Yeah, I'd love to have a small bike again, you know, just to go have fun on it.
Yeah. Yeah, you've really got me thinking. I think when we're finished with the meeting, I'm going to get online and see what's available locally. Even a 650 Vespa would be fine, right? I mean, just something with two wheels that I can take up into the mountain roads. It's got to be big enough to handle the hills. A 125 or a 250 might be a little bit of a struggle with my weight, but something around 650 or 500 would work.
That's a good
Are
bike.
you riding single, Paul, or double?
I'll be single down here. Yeah.
Okay. One of the best bikes I ever had, and if you could find one, you'd probably enjoy it a lot, is a Honda 450 Scrambler.
I'll look around. My first bike was a Honda 250 in '66, followed by a Honda 650 in '66. And both of them were cool. The first one just got me learning, and the second one actually had been chopped to race in Daytona, so it did what it needed to do. But that's about the right lightweight and enough displacement to have power to climb the hills here. That's a good idea. I'm going to look around. I'm getting excited here.
Kawasaki makes a good 650.
Yeah.
I got a 1200 GS BMW. One of my buddies is selling.
Yeah, the challenge I have is that the places where I live, there are no BMW dealers. And I need a bike that I can get serviced reliably, whatever I get.
Or a reliable
I
bike.
told Uta and Chris have gorgeous BMWs. And I had looked in Buffalo to see if I could get rid of my Honda and get a BMW. And the closest dealership was 3 hours away in Pennsylvania. I can't do that.
I was always
My
been
day will
interested in BMWs, and I decided I couldn't get one until I retired because it's basically a 2-day trip to get to a dealer to have much done.
Yeah.
And then you need a
It's an
repairman
ordeal.
that can handle it, service it if it needs help.
Yeah, we have somebody locally that will do, new tires and, just the minor stuff, but it's not a dealer, so you can't really get warranty or anything like that.
Where are you in California, Ron?
Little town called Santa Margarita. It's just north of San Luis Obispo, which
I've
is
actually been there. I've been there.
Yeah.
I was stationed in Monterey for about a year and a half.
okay.
I was in
well, we're-
Monterey also.
Yeah.
Couple hours.
DLIWC.
There's a bunch of us actually.
Couple hours south of there.
Yep, San Luis Obispo is the farthest south I've ever been, but we went to a cafe for lunch in Santa Margarita.
So
How
So I
long ago
noticed-
would that have been?
20 years ago.
Isn't
I
San
don't-
Luis Obispo close to the old Hearst Castle?
Yeah, just
Yeah,
south.
that's San Simeon. It's up on Highway 1.
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't
I'm
been
seeing
there since I graduated.
I'm seeing the chats that somebody might have a bike for sale. Email me at pmcafee, PMCAFEE @unca.edu. If somebody's got a bike they want to get rid of in that 500 to 650 cc range, I'd certainly be interested.
I just partnered
Paul,
with
you
one.
know, I was
wish I'd known.
pleasantly surprised by the Kawasaki. Some years ago, a friend of mine bought one, and she was just getting her license. So she called me, and she said, "Hey, I haven't gone to the class yet. Will you go pick up this, Ninja?" And I thought, "Oh my God, it's a Ninja, So I went and I picked this little Ninja 650 up, and they're a 2-cylinder bike. And while the riding position isn't the most comfortable, wow, that was a really great little bike, and it rode really well, and it got great mileage. I wouldn't hesitate to have one of those.
Yeah, well, I got back into riding. Well, my daughter, who's going to school in LA, wanted a motorcycle, and I required that the two of us go to safety school together many years after I had ridden. And she found a really good deal on a 250cc Kawasaki Ninja, which it is uncomfortable, especially at my age. You're all bent over. But she discovered that she needed to ride it for 500 miles before it was broken in because the guy who sold it hadn't really ridden it. It was fun. It was fun. I don't want to ride a bike like that if I can avoid it. I'd rather sit up straight.
Yeah.
It was a nice bike.
My wife had an SV. I think it was an SV 600, which was a Yamaha. And I'm pretty sure it was a Yamaha. And that's the bike that she decided she didn't want to ride motorcycles anymore. She ended up crashing it. And so, but it was a fun riding bike, and it had plenty of power and did everything we needed it to do. Now I'm trying to remember. Yeah, that's right. It was an FC. It was an R6 engine, but it was an upright sitting bike. That's exactly what it was.
Like a cruiser.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it wasn't really a cruiser. It was more like a standard. I feel like cruisers don't have a riding position that I like either. You know, I don't like to be, you know, I'm more like I like to be like the old 754 Super Sport. That's kind of my favorite riding position. Just upright and going. Cruisers, I don't like to throw my feet up.
And lean forward. You like to lean forward.
A little bit. And I don't like to put my feet out in front of me.
Well, you can get a Harley and customize it yourself. It's not a problem.
Or you could just avoid the problem and not get a Harley.
No problem with a Harley. I've got a Deuce. It's a cruiser style, and it's comfortable as can be. And I haven't had a speck of trouble with it. It's 17 years old, and it's just changed the fluids, and it's fine.
Yeah, I had a Road King
great
for a long
bike,
time, and it was a good bike. It was really a good bike, but.
Hey, my Sportster is the reason I'm so good at fixing bikes, so I don't knock that at all.
That was my first Harley, a Sportster, 1200 low with the Screaming Eagle pipes.
It sounds like yours was newer than mine. Mine was a 72. It had a kickstart. I wasn't heavy enough to kickstart it with 1 foot, so I had to do it with 2.
Yeah.
Mine's a lot newer than that, and it has the balanced engine, so it's really smooth. And my wife had a BMW at one point, and my Harley idled smoother than her Beamer did.
Nothing is more cool to see than a 17-year-old girl getting kicked over the handlebars by her Harley when it catches. I was the coolest girl in school with skid marks on my face.
I was not going to say a word, Amanda, but I had that going through my mind. So are they finally fuel injecting those Sportsters, or are they still normally aspirated?
They are full injected since 2003.
Okay.
So anything below 2003 is still carbureted. And then from then on, we injected so much efficiency. Right, easy electric motor start. Now the newer ones have a balanced engine. They don't vibrate as much. Not like mine.
Well, let's see here.
Who's our mystery motorcycling Rotarians remember. Anybody know?
Do we have a historian?
That's Brian, isn't it?
No, not. Is it
Brian,
Brian? Talk again. Was that you? Oh, you shut your camera off. Are you hiding? Are you eating?
No.
What are you eating? Did you bring
Did
it up?
I shut my camera off?
Yes, you did.
Yeah.
Oh, you know what? I was kind of looking for that SV6 bike, but
Hey, Glenn, did you mean to share your screen?
At least there's never a dull moment.
that's right.
Glenn,
Right.
behave yourself. You're sharing your screen. Don't open anything you don't want us to see.
You
Who's
realize
got-
that somebody's going to get credit for a makeup for watching this.
Right.
Yeah. We're
Who's
not
got the
watching
screen
it.
right now? Who's manipulating this thing?
That's Glenn.
That's Glenn's.
Glenn, type in your password so we can all see it.
There you go.
Somehow I suspect that Glenn can't hear us.
I also think he must be logged in, so he probably doesn't need to re-log in.
Somebody's showing a lot of Zoom stuff here.
Evidence that he brought happy to happy hour. There you go.
Oh, today's happy hour?
I always
Is
I
it
always
today
warn my
happy hour?
students I warn my students when we have online meetings to get all the porn off their screens before they log in.
Good idea.
Once upon a time, a long time ago, I worked for a computer forensics company, and one of the principals at the company took a screenshot of something and sent it, and it had things on there that it definitely should not have had, and he was removed from the company.
Oh, yeah.
That's not.
So guys, I already told Linda because I was complaining about something, but cheers to a new job for me.
Yeah?
Posting myself. And hopefully this
Awesome.
means now that I'm in charge,
Congratulations.
I will actually have time for meetings. So
Cheers.
I start on the 1st.
So, at where? Deets? Give us deets.
So I'm leaving a business development position to move into a position reporting directly to the CEO as the director of service delivery. Going back to peopling, which is nice.
Same company or different company?
Different company, small company, 100 people looking to grow. So they're bringing me in because they want to grow into the cyber and cloud migration world, which is where I am now.
Okay.
So you're still going to be in Northern Virginia, right?
Yeah, Northern Virginia. Yep. And I and actually I have an office people in Raleigh. So I'm down in Raleigh quite often too. But it was just one of those fortuitous meetings. Somebody I was chatting with at a rugby game happened to be the CEO of the company that sponsored my son's team. I didn't know. And I was talking to her about my philosophy on coaching, and she perked up a bit because she just canned her COO. So basically all the reasons I was saying that I love coaching was all the things that he didn't do the way that she wanted done. So it was just fortuitous.
Oh, that's an interesting contact.
I was going to say, that's great.
It's the Michigander or the Northerner in a lot of us, right? We just chat to the walls if they're there and listening. So, you know, it was just kind of cool to strike up a conversation like that.
My wife hates it that I talk to everybody. No matter where I go, I talk to everybody.
My
And
son,
she always
yeah. So Jonathan's in New Plymouth, New Zealand, my son. He just got there a couple weeks ago. And I told him, I said, hey, I already reached out to the Rotary Club and they know you're there and they're expecting you to come to the meeting on Wednesday at noon. He was like, Mom.
Well, now we have some music. I hope you don't. They're not expecting us to dance, whoever that is. that Glenn?
It's because we're listening.
Gotta be.
I think it's Glenn.
I can't mute him because I'm on my iPad. Linda, can you mute him and see if it's him?
With heaven's blessing, we bring another
No?
Stuart into this
No,
world
because I'm not logged in as the admin.
and to England.
Let's see. Wow, this is, oh, there we go. Yep, that was him.
These are the most interesting makeup videos ever.
You know, that fifth number in the four-way test, we really do a good job at that.
Yeah,
Having
that's right.
fun.
Which one is the fifth? Give it.
Oh.
I always added "Will it hurt?" But what do you
No,
add?
no. Will it be fun?
Oh, okay.
Will it hurt? I like Will It Hurt, though. That's probably one we should add.
Number 6.
Or maybe it's just a little redundant since we already said will it be fun, and everything's more fun if it hurts.
Right. Right. Or you pay more. If you pay more, it's always better too.
Oh, is that how it works? Is that like Disney World?
Yeah. Yeah, if it's painful or if you pay more.
Yeah.
Which I suppose is painful as well, right?
I was just going to say, if you pay a painful amount, it better be fun. I don't care if it's not fun, you better smile and say it's fun.
You guys remember Gary Busey, the actor, or you know who he is?
Oh yeah, of course.
You know, my sickness, Brian, is watching Dr. Phil segments on YouTube. But he was on, he crashed his motorcycle and took a big chunk out of his skull back in the late 90s.
Yep.
It's pretty interesting on YouTube videos because it's got quite the not recognition, that's not the word I'm looking for. Recall, stuff like that. He's actually doing really well. But it was an interesting thing to watch.
He was never the sharpest tool in the shed anyway. And then when he had that come out, then he definitely, I mean, it infected him cognitively for a while.
But he's still working. He still works. He still does his line and all that. I mean, he's doing great. But it was kind
He's
of
been in rehab 3 or 4 times since that accident.
Yeah. He got married, has a little kid, and life is good. But speaking of accidents, there you go. Don't do it.
Don't do it.
Paul, your email address is UNC Asheville, right? Are you, you're a guest lecturer there? Is that what you're doing?
Yeah. Just a minute. Sorry. Yeah. It's trying to turn on my video again while I talk. It's unca.edu. So it's University of North Carolina, Asheville. They hired me for a 1-year contract as visiting lecturer of strategy. So I'm teaching the capstone strategic management course and a marketing course.
Awesome.
But I'm only here for a year. Yeah, they're considering whether they want to bring me back another year. I'll know in a couple of weeks. But for right now, it's only a 1-year contract.
I think somebody in my position should probably know something about business. So don't tell my bosses that I don't. That would be super awkward.
Well, I'm thinking of putting together, I use a really neat strategy simulation in my capstone courses, and the students this year are having a lot of fun with it. So I'm thinking of actually eventually settling into offering it to corporations. It's a cross-functional. I get all the functions together and sort of have everybody work together on the simulation to get a better understanding of strategic management across multiple functions.
That would be awesome, actually. So moving, I'm totally hijacking this meeting right now. Moving into this role, they've got a major disconnect between the operational program management and the headquarters functions, which is pretty much the same as every company ever. So something like that would be really useful. So let me know. And if you want some eyes on while you're putting it together, happy to give some feedback.
Thanks. I'll sort of alert the group. I taught a master's, an MBA class using the simulation in the fall or in the spring, and I had like 5 people from Rich Foods there. They were sending them all off for their MBAs. When I asked them if they'd be interested, they all got excited about it. So that was sort of my first attempt at test marketing the concept. I have to get through this year and finish teaching these kids that I'm teaching now.
Well, let me know if you've got any rising stars. I'd love to just grab them, recruit them directly.
Email me. I can tell you who the good ones are. They're either graduating right now or they're going to graduate in the spring. And I have a handful of people who are really bright.
Awesome, because I'm leaving a position that they're going to need to backfill. So.
Well, I would rather give them to you to the position you're going into.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Give you
I
some,
need to go into
management training opportunities. People who are coming in at the ground level, but can be developed into managerial roles.
Absolutely. We were just not complaining. We were talking today about IT companies' propensity for making the senior most engineer the manager because they've been there the longest, and they're not necessarily the best person for the job. So anyway,
I spent 30 years in large corporations, Kodak, Sprint, Danaher, companies like that. And there's a tendency to take your top performing salesperson and make them VP of sales.
Yeah.
And they know nothing about management. They know all about sales. They oftentimes fail miserably.
Absolutely.
The prior company where I work, Cryovac Sealer, did that. And that was the biggest mistake that I ever done.
Yeah.
Put all the top engineers in position of management that they don't know how to manage people or strategies.
And they don't want to. A lot of times they don't even want to be in that role, right? They're not only do they not know, they don't want to do it. So we just force it on them. Just got me up on my soapbox. I'm done now. Hi, Scott.
Hello. Did I miss the whole
Hey,
party?
Scott, welcome.
Thank you. We had a Diwali
Hey,
event here in work, so you can tell by the lighting I'm still at the office.
Yeah, I was just going to say.
Scott, did you know that you were the scheduled guest speaker for tonight?
I would have think I would have heard about that elsewhere, but I might believe it. Was I supposed to talk about something today, or?
No.
Okay, good.
You're supposed to explain. I know what Diwali is because I've been teaching in Singapore for several years, but you might want to explain what that is to everybody else.
Okay, Diwali is the Festival of Lights in India. I just had a coworker explain this to me today, so at least I can't say I'm stale in the concept. I guess it's based on an old fable about involving their pantheon, their gods, and the royal family who had sent this couple and their brother out to live in the woods for 14 years. And the youngest of the wives in the royal household had wanted her youngest son to be the next king. And when he came of age, he declined. He said, I'm going to take the sandals of the one we sent off to live in the woods and put those on the throne until he comes home. And so when the rightful king returned from the woods, they had this big festival. Short story.
It's a good story. I'd never heard of it. In Singapore, they light everything up. And, there's a high percentage of Indian people in Singapore, but the whole city state absolutely goes crazy. They shut all the businesses down, and it's a great festival. It's a very happy festival.
It sounds like fun. It was good here too. We had a lot of the folks wearing traditional Indian attire. We're a software heavy company, and so of course there's a lot of people here from India. And they had henna artists doing hand art and so on. Yeah, I was asking one of my colleagues, so did you ask her if she'd do a tramp stamp for you in henna? Turn around and look at the show. No anchor on the bicep or something like that in henna. That'd be kind of.
You're going to be in sensitivity training tomorrow, Scott.
They've tried. Ask my teenagers. I'm not very sensitive.
Aren't you in California?
Even in Bay Area, California, but I guess I'm too Minnesotan to make any difference. Yeah. It's funny. So this was just a happy hour meeting, or?
Yeah, we're just
It looks.
having
Yeah,
a
we're-
happy hour meeting.
All right.
Yeah,
Nice.
Scott,
Nice.
you missed a real good interchange earlier. It's been kind of a crazy meeting.
I'll have to watch the recording. I'll have to catch it up. Oh man. I don't know if I ever told that story. I might have said something about it. So I put the blog of the IFMR thing over in Europe, but last night I tried to work on the Japan video a little bit more. And man, it's like so much footage. Right now as it sits in the video editor, there's like an hour and a half. It's like nobody's going to sit and watch this whole thing hour and a half. I need to keep editing.
Yeah, I hate that. You get so much good content that you've just got to throw away. You just, oh.
Yeah, good is all relative to the audience.
Right.
Send me a note when you get it down to 3 minutes.
3 minutes, okay. Yeah.
You got to ask
Just
what
get-
the content you're trying to get across to your audience is, and really stick to it. It's hard.
I think what YouTube is really all about is just like when people used to show the slideshows of their travels, but you don't have to sit around to watch the audience groan and moan about it. And then they can fast forward through the dull parts too, which is nice.
I put a GoPro on my bike, and that has been interesting because you can do a 3-minute video of everything that you film. So I film a couple hours of night riding, day riding, and 3 minutes, and then I just compress in 2 minutes. Well,
How exciting.
Yeah, the GoPro has better stabilization, I think, than image stabilization than what I've got, but mine's all integrated, and that way there's not the futzing around with it at the gas station while everybody else is sweating in their leathers.
Yeah.
GoPro's really good with that. I had one on a Jeep out on some rocky roads. And it was almost too much justice to the.
Did it look too smooth?
I use, and I know Linda has one, I use DJI drone, and they have really good gimbal technology, and they sell a number of devices you can use with other cameras. You can use it, they even have a thing called an Osmo you can use with a cell phone. I don't know if they have anything that could be helmet or handlebar mounted, but DJI.com is a good place to go look. They're really expanding the use of their gimbal technology and image stabilization technology. You might find something useful there.
Yeah. I think Sena is the strongest player in the motorcycle helmet market.
At least for electronics. I'd like to see those helmets be tested by the Sharp people in Europe before I go putting one on my head. But
yeah, I like the add-on technologies. I don't like the helmet that's built in with it, because then you can't cycle out your technology separately. You've got to replace the whole helmet and get the new system with it. Drives the costs up.
Right. That's yeah. I bought the Sena add-on to my favorite helmet, and then that's just how I did it. Yeah. But they're building helmets now, right? I mean,
They are. Mm-hmm. Well, they just launched the new camera is the Sena 10C Evo, and I had 3 months earlier bought the 10C Pro. I don't see that there's a lot of difference in it. I guess they still don't have the image stabilization, so it's not too chapped about the upgrade difference, but whatever.
Yeah. Well, considering this started out with, I think I had the first evolution of their Bluetooth technology. And the software was so clunky, and they were obviously just a really small company trying to get going. So it's really good to see that they're like coming along. So
yeah, they've got a large portion of the market now. But I had that SMH-10 was one of the real early units, and I don't think it had a phone
That's
app.
what I had.
Yeah. So I've got an
Yeah,
SMH-5 now is the old one.
Yeah. The 10 would Bluetooth to a phone, but it didn't have a phone app. It didn't have a good interface to call up Siri or say,
Right.
make this phone call or anything like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I like about the Pro. I've got the old 10C and the 10C Pro as well. And even the SMH5 they had new firmware for, even though I had to plug into the laptop to upgrade them.
Right.
When iOS 13 came out, it kind of knocked them offline for a little while.
Yeah.
Hey,
We
Jerry's
started
wife just posted that there's supposed to be snow this week. Are you guys getting it on the West Coast too, Rory?
No snow here, just rain.
I meant, sorry, my West Coast, the West Coast of Michigan.
Oh.
I was thinking.
Oh,
I grew up in
Right.
Minnesota, but not out here.
Yeah, as far as I know, we're not supposed to get any yet.
Look what just joined the group. Good evening, sir.
There's a lot of raining here, guys. Keep that snow
Hey,
up.
there it is.
Hey, Jerry, are you floated in Antigua?
Yeah, sí. Muchas lluvias. Mucha lluvia. Pero no nieve. No nieve. Nada.
Muy bien, Jerry. I've been having fun. You should keep posting in Spanish. I like that. But I'll have to tell you, I need to enable my Spanish keyboard because that was infuriating trying to respond to you the other day. My computer kept spell correcting it to random words in English.
I figured out a few tricks to do the typing.
I just need to, I need to just add the Spanish keyboard.
On your telephone, you just
Yeah.
hold down the key and it pops up choices.
Yeah, but then it still tries to spell check it. It still tries to spell correct it. It's super
Yeah,
annoying.
you gotta turn
I
that
should
off.
screenshot what it tried to change it to, and I was like, I quit.
I have some very good teachers plus some very good friends here, and I'm surprised I'm getting a lot of conversation in.
That's
even
awesome.
even not knowing. I may only know at this point. I think I know about 3,000 words, maybe.
But you understand what's being said, right?
Más o menos.
The very first dream I had in Spanish, and they say that that's when you finally have figured out the languages when you dream. The whole dream, everybody was speaking Spanish, and I could understand everything that they said, but I couldn't speak back, which was also 100% what was happening in real life.
It might be the hearing aids that I have now, but I actually hear better than I did last year, quite a bit. So I'm understanding a lot more that I hear.
Nice.
Do you carry a notebook around with you, a small little spiral bound notebook with you?
Internet's slowing down for me here. I'm sorry.
I used to carry a
Words are
small
breaking up.
notebook. Oh, I'll send it to you in a text.
Okay. Ooh, I don't know how to do the text at the same time as the video on the phone.
Okay, then I won't. Can you hear me now? I used to carry
Are
a
you-
small notebook with me, and when somebody would say a word that I didn't know, I'd write it down in the notebook. And then when I got home in the evening, I'd look up each word.
Yeah, but when I
Are you
write
on
that
an
stuff down, I got the wrong vowels and I missed the H's. What else? Yeah, I missed, and I don't know if it's a J or a G, and I get really confused.
Jerry, are you on an iPhone?
Say?
Are
Hey?
you on an iPhone?
No.
Oh, okay. Then I don't know how to help you with the chat.
Oh, Google Translate will listen and change for you too. In fact, I've learned you can have an entire conversation with Google and yourself for practice.
How does that
Sorry,
work?
Jay.
That doesn't make sense.
What's that? Well, you have to talk to yourself, ask yourself questions, and answer the questions in the conversation.
Okay.
In Google conversation mode. You can get in a lot of practice that way. The other person doesn't get mad.
You can get mad at
It's
yourself.
really cool. You get mad.
Nice.
So let's see, I guess I joined real late.
I don't know. What time is it? I don't even know.
It's 4 minutes to the hour.
5:55.
Oh, yeah.
It's 5:55 here.
Yeah, 8:55. I mean 7:55 here.
7:55, yeah.
Ahora es 6 menos cuarto minutos. See?
Be careful, Jerry. You said cuarto, and that means quarter before. Cuatro.
Yeah. You could say 4 minutos falta 6.
Jerry, have you tried the app Duolingo?
See,
Yeah, I like Duolingo. That's
I've not used it in a while, but you can really build up a lot of vocabulary with that.
vocabulary. Yep. And the conjugations, because the conjugations can get funny.
Yeah, I'm in the past tense conjugations, irregular verbs now.
Yeah. You listen to my
I just make everything
conversations and you'll
past-
get funny, all right.
My trick was always just to make it like past continuous, just end aba at the end, right? And then I never had to like really figure out how to conjugate anything.
Now you just got ahead of me. So
You'll remember this in about
we'll have
in
a lot
about
of
2
fun
months.
when you guys are down here next spring.
Yeah. Yes.
Oh, it's internet froze up again.
It's me. I got kicked out earlier.
Internet froze.
Now it's Jerry. Jerry needs to go to a Wi-Fi place in Antigua to get better connection.
Jerry lives in
See.
Or Jerry,
Yeah.
he can't hear us.
Oh, that's a great spot for him to be locked up on. Yeah, exactly. Outstanding.
Well, where'd the application go?
I don't know, but we can still hear you, so don't say anything bad.
Be recorded for posterity.
It all screwed up for me.
No swearing en español, mijo. You had to
No
have
es bueno.
learned the swear words, right?
Muy mal.
You've learned the swear
Es
words,
muy
right? 'Cause
mal.
it's very important.
Zoom de Pumba.
I learned very quickly when I came back from Spain that how they say I'm going to grab a cab in Spain is not what it means in any other Spanish
Ah,
country.
aquí.
So how do they say it, Amanda? I'm dying to
In
know.
Spain, they say voy a coger un taxi.
Oh, no!
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. Okay, thank you, all my Spanish speakers, for laughing at that.
You know what that means, right?
Yeah,
Yes,
I can
of course I know what
do.
it means now, right? Nobody else does. But I can tell you, without saying what it means, that a lot of my friends looked at me and said, I don't think it's legal for you to do that to a taxi.
That's right.
Yeah. Especially on the street, right?
Yes. And then in Spain, like, it's like when you're telling your friend, like, stop being a jerk, you're like, oye, no sea cabrón. And that's like a huge swear word in a lot of other places. I didn't know
It
that,
is.
right? So like
Yeah.
I was doing things to taxis that were illegal, and I was calling people bad words, and I was like, what? I don't understand. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hard lessons.
Yeah. I mean, even way, if you don't have somebody that you know really well,
Right.
and you have,
You can't call him.
you don't want to call somebody way on the street because
Right.
Well, and in Spain, they don't use usted at all. Like,
No.
ever. So I never even really learned it. So like everybody thought I was rude, and I'm like, I'm not rude. I didn't learn it. But yeah.
Yep. We make fun of all the Spanish people when they are traveling in Guatemala or any Latin American country.
Absolutely. And you should. There's an inappropriate sketch by a British woman named Catherine Tate called The Offensive Translator. And when she's translating for the Spanish person, she doesn't actually speak Spanish, so he's speaking in Spanish. And then she goes to translate what the guy said in English, and she just looks at him and goes, and I was like,
Oh no.
It's terrible. Terrible. No, Jerry is in my hometown, Antigua, Guatemala. He's living life in Antigua, Guatemala.
You're going with us in the spring, right, Emilio?
Yeah, May. Oh, yeah.
Cool. Cool.
So I couldn't go this November, but definitely going in May. Oh, I'm good to go.
This year is just nuts for me for travel. Not in a bad way, but just with
Too much.
starting a new job. Jerry didn't hear that I started a new job in a couple weeks, and then Jonathan's in New Zealand. And so I'm going to go see him in January, and then we're coming to Guatemala in May, and then I'm going to try to make it to Honolulu in June.
Didn't let me take any bins yet because she wasn't finished.
I'm planning Honolulu too.
Yeah. I just, because I've got a 2-week gap between current job and new job, I am doing the responsible thing, and I'm taking a cruise. So Maggie and I are leaving on the 10th from New York, and we're going one way to Puerto Rico by way of Antigua, but the other Antigua in San Juan. But yeah, it's just crazy year for traveling in a good way. I love traveling; it's the best. But.
You're going to Antigua.
Antigua, that's right. They don't say it right there. I forgot. We're going to Antigua.
Yeah.
And Puerto Rico.
Puerto Rico.
Where they do things like sweepar la carpeta, and I was like, do what
That's
to
right.
the carpet? No, I have to sweep the carpet. I'm like, that's not how this works.
Escopar.
Sweepar la carpeta. I'm gonna be late.
Sweepar, huh?
Yeah, I'm gonna be late because tengo que sweepar la carpeta. I was like, and I was at the language school. I'm like, what? No, what? Yeah, my Puerto Rican friends.
Huh.
Jerry, you will have to see the recording because you came in late.
And it was absolutely just gripping. We've had such amazing conversations today.
Speaking of that, guys, it is 3 minutes after. So anybody who wants to bail out, we're good. Anybody got the 4-way test for us?
Brian, before we do that, are you, next week is the 5th Wednesday. Are we going to have a meeting?
I don't think we are. I think we're dark.
Okay.
Yeah.
We're dark.
Yeah, we're dark next week.
So are we doing the 5-way test? Not the 4, 5. Wait.
We got to 6 today. We added another one.
Oh, man.
We should maybe start with It Hurts.
Cheers.
All right. 4-way test of the things we think, say, or do. 1, is it the
Is
truth?
it the truth?
Will it be fair to all concerned?
Concerned.
Will it
Will it be-
Goodwill, better
Goodwill
friendship.
and better friendship.
Will it be
Will it be
beneficial?
beneficial to all
All
concerned?
concerned.
And will it be fun?
Fun.
Will it hurt?
See y'all in 2 weeks.
Will it be slightly painful?
Bye, guys.
Cheers.
Good night, all.